all. Thank you for attending our Hangout today. I'm Brianna Davis with International Student. And today we're going to be talking about secrets to getting your F1 visa approved. So we're not going to cover direct steps that you need to get your F1 visa or even the documents you need, because really you can find all of this information on numerous sites online. You can go to internationalstudent.com and get that information. You can go to a number of US government sites and get that information. So really what we're going to talk about today are a few of the key requirements for qualification, and then a few tips on those items. And then we're also going to give you a few sample questions that you might be asked during your F1 visa interview. That way you can sort of formulate answers in your mind before you go in, and that you're better prepared. That way you can be as prepared as possible and hopefully get approved for that F1 visa. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, though, if you have any questions, please feel free to send those into the chat feature. I know a lot of you already have. So keep those questions coming, though, if you have any. And keep in mind that really, if you have questions on the actual process, you can find that all on internationalstudent.com. So let's get started on some of these tips. So the first thing that they'll be looking for is foreign residence and ties to your home country. So they're going to want to know that after you obtain your U.S. degree, that you are going to be returning home. After all, an F1 visa is a temporary student visa. So a few ways that you'll be able to prove this is going to be through a job offer letter. So perhaps you have a company that has offered you a job upon your return after you have your U.S. degree. You'll want to bring that letter with you. Assets. So for example, if you have a vehicle or land or a car, or a home there, you'll want to bring information to show that. And then bank accounts. If you have any bank accounts, you'll want to bring your statements with you, and then any family back home. So those are all a few items that you can show to prove that you actually do have ties to your home country, that you're not going to be permanently relocating to the U.S., that you do in fact want to go there to get your degree. Now, a few tips whenever it comes to this item to being sure that you can meet this qualification. Get personal. Don't be afraid to give them too much information. If you're giving them too much, then they'll stop you. But don't be afraid to really dive into some of those issues about your family and things like that, to really show that you have all intentions of going back home, that you have things that you do not want to permanently leave behind. Now, a few items that you want to touch on is, why are you going to become an international student? So what possessed you to want to do this in the first place? How is it going to better you? How is it going to better your family and your career whenever you actually do come back to your home country? So have those ideas in mind, be able to answer those. And then exactly what will you be doing whenever you return? So whenever you do come back to your host country, what do you plan to do with that new U.S. degree that you have? And how's it going to help you in your career? So I know that's a pretty deep question, and you might be thinking, well, I'm not really sure what I'll be doing in 4 to 5 years after I get that degree. But it's something that you'll need to think about and that you'll need to have an answer to, because more than likely they will ask. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at a few sample questions that are related to the foreign residence and ties. So we have here, where do you want to work once you graduate? So once again, they're really going to want to see, if you say, you plan on staying in the U.S., which, part of the agreement of an F1 visa is that you're returning home. So, give your honest answers, but just keep that in mind on what they're looking for. So where do you want to work once you graduate? How often will you be visiting home during your studies? Do you have any relatives inside the U.S.? Do you have a significant other located in the U.S.? And you're currently employed. Why do you want to leave your job? So this last one, this is if you currently have a job. It's maybe a great job, and so they might be kind of curious as to why you're going to up and leave to go get your U.S. degree. So be ready to answer this question if this does fit your situation. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the second requirement for qualification. So eligible sponsoring institution. So what we mean by this is your school has to be one that's approved. So you can't just get an I-20, which is something that's needed in order to get your F1 visa. You can't just get an I-20 from anywhere. You have to make sure that it's an approved school. So if you're not really sure as to if this school is approved, what you can do is you can give the school a call. Now, what schools have are called the DSO, the Designated School Official. They are really, really educated in helping foreign students, so they are a great resource to contact. But in general, they're not usually going to be the only ones to know if they're an eligible school. But if you do need to contact someone at the school that you wish to attend, then they're a very great contact. Now, just because they're a source that you'll want to utilize with your questions and for tips, make sure that you don't abuse this relationship. You don't want to call them all the time or email them all the time for information, but definitely use this resource to get some information on your school and on the process of getting your F1 visa, what you need to do. They're a very, very great resource to use at your institution. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at a few sample questions on when it comes to finding an eligible sponsoring institution. So what school will you be attending? Hopefully this will be a very easy question for you to answer. What you might want to do though is research your school and find maybe different acronyms. Perhaps say you're going to attend University of Central Missouri, you'd want to know that it's shortened down to UCM. You might want to know their mascot, things like that. Second, why do you want to attend this school? Name specific reasons. So really dive into your school. Get to know some facts behind your school. Just saying that I picked this school because it's a school in California and it seems like it'll be a sunny location. It's a suitable answer, but more than likely you'll want to have a little bit more information to back up that argument. So do some diving in to find information on the school. Maybe you want to find the total school population. You might want to, as I mentioned before, figure out the mascot. Maybe know a little bit of history on this school. Knowing too much information can never hurt, and really it's going to benefit you too. It'll help you really establish that connection with your school and make it a little bit more fun in the journey for you. So what degree are you pursuing? This one hopefully should be an easy one as well, but you might want to dive into the degree program at your school, get a bit more information on that. That couldn't hurt. Why did you choose to study in the US versus any other country? And do you know about the city in which your school is located? Share details if so. So don't just know about your school, make sure you know where it's located. So know the city, know what's in the city, maybe things to do, where it's located on a map, know what state it's located in. These all seem like very general things, but they might be things that you haven't actually thought about and you do need to know. So do that research and have that to back it up. All right, and third, we have financial support. So 65% of students say that family support is their biggest chunk of funds, according to the Institute of International Education. So, while you have that 65%, you have a whole other chunk of students who they're still really frantically searching for other aid. And if you've seen any of our other Hangouts, then we always say first, try to get scholarships. They're free money, so try as hard as you can to get those scholarships. Second, if you still have a few holes to fill, which most of us do, then you can utilize an international student loan. You can try to utilize one. The only thing is, even with getting an international student loan, you still might face a few hurdles. Now, one key hurdle is in order to be approved for an international student loan, you'll have to be accepted into a school. But in order to get that I-20, you're going to have to be able to show proof of funds. So it's sort of a catch-22, kind of a sticky spot. A lot of international students that run into this, and really it's a hard place to be. So the tip for this is going to be use the initial loan approval as proof of funds. And of course, that's if it's okay with your school. So what you would do is you'd apply for the loan, you would put the school down that you wish to attend, and then once you get that initial approval, you can get that to your school, and hopefully they'll be able to issue your I-20 off of that. But once again, it's going to be completely up to your school as to if they'll accept this or not. But it is one option. If you really don't have any other options and you have to show those proof of funds, then this is kind of a way that might help you get around that little hurdle that you have, that sticky spot. So really that's a good alternative. All right, so let's take a look at a few sample questions that you might have whenever it comes to showing that you do have financial aid in order to support your studies abroad. So the first one is, what is the occupation and monthly income of your parents? I know this is going to get very personal, and a lot of individuals might have some problem talking about these items, especially whenever it comes to their finances. Just keep in mind, though, these are standard questions. They're not specifically pinpointing you because they don't think that you specifically can afford it. Just expect these questions, and I think you'll be a little bit more comfortable with being able to answer them. Do you have any loans? What is the annual cost of your school? How will you pay for each year of your school? So don't just look at the first year and how you're going to pay for that. You need to think about that second, third, fourth, and maybe fifth year of school. So how are you going to be able to pay for each of those years? And then can we see your bank statements? So they might ask for your bank statements, which once again, it's good to show the ties to your home country as well to bring in those bank statements. But they might want to see those. And then if there's any big withdrawals or big deposits on there, then more than likely they're going to ask what those are all about. So be ready to answer questions specific to what's going on in your bank statements. All right. So these are just a few requirements for qualification that you'll want to keep in mind. Take these questions and really try to formulate answers to them. Like I said, they're going to help you be as prepared as possible for going in for your F1 visa interview. Hopefully you'll get that stamp of approval. Now, a little bit later on, we're going to have 2 other tips, but right now we're going to dive into the questions that you guys have. I know we've had a few come through. Hopefully some of them were answered during the Hangout, but let's go ahead and take a look at those real quick. And if you haven't sent in your question yet, send those in. Hopefully we'll get it answered for you. Okay, so the first one we have, how can I get an F1 visa? As mentioned before, the very first step, you're going to have to find an approved school. Now, we're not going to go into all the steps from there because what you need, all the documentation, we could stay here all day with the ins and outs of that. But if you go to internationalstudent.com, it's going to show you a ton of details and information on what you need, the documentation that you need. So please go there if you don't really know how to navigate around. Up in the search bar, you can just simply type in F1 visa search. It'll bring you a whole slew of information, a ton of different pages that you can choose from on the F1 visa and what you need to do. Okay, let's see, next one. I've been rejected 2 times for my F1 visa for the English as Second Language course because of low IELTS scores. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's really tough. My subject is Bachelor of Computer Science. If I get a positive mark on the IELTS after applying, is there any chance to get approved? You know, you can try to go through again the process. As you know, you've went through the second time. You can try to go back through again, and if circumstances change, then it can really better your odds. So give it a try. There's no harm in trying again. Just try to make sure that you get a better score and then give it a try. All right. I have no idea what F1 visa means. I'm sorry, could you explain it to me a bit more? I'm eager to know, and thank you very much. Yeah, no problem. So F1 visa, it's just a student visa. So if you're coming to the United States as an international student, you're going to be entering on a temporary visa. And for students, most of the time, it's going to be an F1 visa. So that's what we're referring to by F1 visa. So it's one of the more common ones. But like I said, it doesn't apply in all cases. So that's what it is, a temporary student visa. Okay. I'm a transfer student from India, and I got admitted to university. I want to know what kind of questions they would ask me as I'm a transfer student. I have no idea. That's a great question. Usually they're going to, I mean, really it's going to vary depending on who you get, what they need based upon what they have. Just having as much information as possible on your year that you were there or however long you've been here in the US, make sure you have all of that information. So bring your transcripts, make sure that you still continue to have as much the funds that you need in order to study there, just like new students have to have. Make sure that you have all of that information to make sure that you meet those qualifications. So you'll want that on top of items to show your time in the US, just show proof how you actually were there indeed to study, how you did, things of that nature. Okay, I'm interested in the next winter term at Northeastern University, and I'd please like to know what type of personal information and resources do I need to receive the F1 visa? Thank you for attention. So once again, if you're referring to that you have ties back home, your personal information, these are going to be some pieces that you'll want to have. Now, just to get your F1 visa in general, you're going to have to have things like your passport, a photo, a couple of different forms to fill out. Once again, go to internationalstudent.com. You'll be able to see all of those documents and every piece of information that you need. Whenever it comes to personal information, though, this is a really good place to start, as well as, of course, your educational documents, such as transcripts. Okay. Next question. Hello, can you help me? How can I get an F1 visa approved to study in the US? I believe that's your question. How can you get it approved? So really, like I said before, first step, make sure you have an approved school. The ball will start rolling from there. You just need to have the necessary documents. You'll have to, of course, go in for that F1 visa interview, which is a lot of times the most stressful part for students. So you'll want to make sure that you follow these for that F1 visa interview. Keep those in mind. This is what they're going to be wanting to see. So whenever you know exactly what they're going to be looking for, what they need to see, it's a little bit easier to be able to know how to be prepared and know what to present to them. So keep these in mind and then be able to answer the questions specific to your situation. Take those sample questions, come up with answers, and then maybe even think of other questions along those same lines that they might ask and then come up with answers to those. It's really just making sure that you have organization within your mind on why you're going there, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish whenever you come back. Okay, so the next one, we have an individual from Sri Lanka. Can I know, let's see, can we get internships or practical training with an F1 visa category? There's two questions here. We'll answer that one first. So you do have an option to go onto OPT. That's an option. You would have to apply for that, though, if that's what you plan to do. You'd have to, once again, this individual comes into play, the DSO at your school. If you're interested in doing OPT, partaking in OPT, then you'll want to contact them and they can help you to get that going to see if it'd be an option for you because you'll be able to get some practical training with that. So that is a good option. And the next one, are age a matter for applying for an undergraduate degree and F1 visa? So typically, no. I mean, there's certain ages, typically the individuals do an undergraduate degree, but really there's a ton of non-traditional students. So just because you're a certain age usually doesn't mean that you're going to be denied admissions. If you're really concerned about it, you can contact the school and see what their thoughts are. Usually it's not going to be a problem though. So that's really the first place that you want to start. If you're really concerned about the age limitation for getting into that school, then just contact the school, but usually it's not a problem. All right, hi, I want to know if the immigration is filed. Okay, if I have to travel back and then come back on time. Okay. Right, we might have to skip this one. I do apologize. I'm not quite sure what the question is. We have a question from Nariman. I do apologize. I'm not quite sure what you're asking here. But if you would like, I will afterwards, then I will go back through and I'll try to get you the best answers possible to that. I'll reach out to you on Google Plus personally, try to reevaluate your question and then send you an answer. I apologize about that, but we'll get you the answer that you need. Okay, so we have an individual who is looking to further their online master degree in education at Walden University in America. Please, is there any possibility to get a scholarship or visa to go there? Well, if you are doing an online degree remotely, then unless you have to come to the U.S. for any type of the educational support, then you're not going to need a visa to come over here. So if you're doing it all online, remote, not coming to the U.S., you're not going to need a visa. Now, if you're looking for scholarships, then yes, we have a ton of scholarships on international student. Once again, if you just go up to that search bar, it's a really handy search bar there, type in scholarships. It's going to take you to our whole scholarship search, or you can navigate through the top bar. We have a ton of options for financial aid and finding scholarships. So you can go there and there's going to be a whole list of scholarships from different institutions. They're going to have different requirements though. So you'll want to check out the requirements for each scholarship, make sure that you meet those requirements before you apply. That way you're not wasting your time. And then you can filter out the ones based upon your situation even to find ones that are more specific to you. If you are looking for a scholarship, we have another hangout on scholarships, how to find a scholarship actually. So you'll want to check that out after this one. It can give you a great insight into how to find a scholarship. Okay, we have, hello, I want to know what evidence I can prove to my consular officer to show my ties with my home country, and how I can prove I'll be returning upon graduation. All right, so once again, here's a few items that you can use. So a job offer letter, your assets, such as title to your car, any land you have, your home, and then any documentation to show proof that you actually have those assets, excuse me, any bank accounts, and then family. So really, they're going to be diving in. They'll ask you certain questions. Bring these items, but really they'll be asking to get further information from you to make sure that your intentions actually are to be returning. Knowing these as well, why you're becoming an international student, exactly what you're going to be doing once you return, those can help you also. So be able to answer these questions. That's really going to be key as well, along with being able to show documentation and proof. Being able to have these answers in your mind to be able to clearly tell them what you're going to be doing is going to be very helpful. All right, can I start the process, the visa process inside the US? All right, so you want to change to an F1 visa. Can you do it without leaving the US? So if you do want to switch your visa to an F1 visa, then you'd need to submit documentation. You'd need to go ahead and submit that to the USCIS, and then you'd have to go through that process. So of course it's going to be up to them. It's going to be determined by your circumstances, but you can go ahead and submit that in order to change your visa over. All right, so how long does it normally take to get a visa? If my intention is to stay for 1 year under OPT, should I inform them? All right, so how long does it normally take? Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you could have to wait a while in order to go in for that visa interview. You should apply as soon as possible. Now, they can't issue that visa 120 days before your I-20, before the date on your I-20. But what we recommend is apply as soon as possible, because you could have a little bit of a delay, a little bit of wait time whenever it comes to going in for your visa interview. So as soon as you know, go ahead and apply. And then, yeah, I mean, you can tell them that you'll be, that you want to participate in OPT. That's not a problem. There's a lot of international students who do. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so what are the differences between F1 visa and J1 visa considering the benefits? Well, typically it's going to be your purpose as to why you're going over there. So if you're going to be coming to the US to be an international student for 4 years, then that's typically going to be an F1 visa. You're not going to be allowed to do that under a J1 visa. It's going to be based upon what you're coming to the US to do. So if you're wanting to come here to, say, study education for 4 years, get your degree in education, typically that's going to be an F1 visa. It's really going to be dependent, though, on what your purpose of coming over here to do is. And once again, we have more information on internationalstudent.com on what the different visas are. If you want to look and see, based upon your situation, which one might be the right fit for you, you can go there as well. International student, get more information. All right, is there a time period after the completion of my studies to apply for OPT? Yes, so 60 days. You have 60 days there if you would like to apply. And it looks like that's the only part of that question. Do we have any other questions? If you do have any others, feel free to send those in. We'll wait a couple moments here. And now's the time that I wanted to discuss these other tips while we're waiting for you to send in those other questions. So the last 2 tips that we have, which we've kind of already addressed, stick to a timeline. So we had the question of when do I need to apply? And that's a great question. A lot of students don't know what they need to do in the 12th month before, what they need to do in the 3rd month before. So if you go to internationalstudent.com, once again, we have a timeline based upon what you should be doing in the whole process. If you don't get accepted into your school in time before you want that semester, before you want the chosen semester abroad to start, then chances are you're not going to be able to get that F1 visa approval in time. So sticking to the timeline is extremely important. So make sure that you need to know that you know what to do in each month. And then also, whenever you go in, I know this is a very, very stressful situation. You have to talk to these government officials who are going to be drilling you on why you want to go to the US. But really just try to relax. This can help by, as I mentioned, being as prepared as possible. So have answers to questions. If you're going there with the purest of intentions to get your degree, come back to your home country, and start living your life there with that US degree, then you shouldn't have any problems. Of course, it's going to be up to them to give you the final yes or no, but they'll be able to see, if you do meet those requirements or not. So just relax, be prepared, and be honest. Be fully honest with them. Also, keep in mind, even if you're denied, you don't want to be rude or, don't say anything that you might regret later, because keep in mind that they can make notes in your file. And as you've seen on here, individuals, if you want to go back later and try to get approved again, that's going to be on your file, and more than likely, you might not get approved that second time around either. So be kind. That's a big tip as well. Okay. I think that's all the questions we have for today. Yep, so that's all the questions we have today. Thank you guys for hanging around. And hopefully you can join us for our next hangout. Once again, I'm Brianna Davis with International Student. We hope these tips will help you to get that F1 visa approval. Good luck and class dismissed.